I say that I belong to a traumatized generation that often felt abandoned by God and betrayed by mankind. And yet I believe that one must not estrange oneself from either God or man. Was it yesterday or eternities ago that some of us have realized that human beings are capable of unspeakable brutality? That for killers it was human to be inhuman? Are we therefore to give up on humanity? Was then the man that we are, the human beings that we are, were we God's victim or God's failure? Are we God's prisoner? Are we God's orphans?
One of Elie's great geniuses was to take his personal history, but to make it into a universal message for all of humanity, and to remind all of us of the fragility of all human societies, and that human beings always have this propensity towards hatred, but that there is something we can do about it.
I still cling to words, for it is we who decide whether they become spears or balm, carriers of bigotry or vehicles of understanding, whether they are used to curse or to heal, whether they are here to cause shame or to give comfort. I believe that ultimately it is we who decide whether words are to be turned into poisonous arrows or into peace offerings. I belong to a generation that has learned that whatever the question, despair is not an answer. Whatever the experience, indifference is not an option.
And so he made his past a warning and an inspiration for the future by telling a story that was at once very particular to his experience and those of the others, Jews during the Holocaust, but also a very universal story about all of us as human beings.
Well, if you think about what he experienced as a young man, what he lived through in Auschwitz and Buchenwald, he would have had every right to spend the rest of his life seeking comfort and quiet and peace. And yet he didn't. He spent the rest of his life striving to make sure that what happened to him doesn't happen to others.
I believe that every day it is incumbent upon us to choose anew between deadly warfare among adults and the right of children to grow up without fear, with a smile on their face. Between ugly hatred and the nobility of opposing it. Between inflicting pain and humiliation and inventing a beginning of solidarity and hope.
I think that example is so incredibly powerful of the opposite of what apathy is, of the opposite of what not caring is. And for so many of us who live quite comfortably in the Western world, we need his example, that even in the midst of our comfort, the worst thing we can do is be apathetic about the nature of the world around us.
I think that the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum and the National Cathedral have in common a commitment to the dignity of all human beings, and that we must inspire and challenge all human beings to have responsibility for that human dignity and for promoting our shared humanity and for doing what Elie always admonished us to beware of, which was indifference to the plight of our fellow human beings.
Much more what we want to do is to remind everyone who comes in this building about the legacy that he leaves us, about the lessons that he stood for, about what he lived through and survived, so that one, we never forget the Holocaust, and that everyone who walks in this building and sees his face is reminded of that. And two, hopefully, we will be inspired to continue his work and his legacy in the world.
I know, and I speak of experience, that even in the midst of darkness, it is possible to create light and share warmth with one another. That even on the edge of the abyss, it is possible to dream exalted dreams of compassion. That it is possible to be free and strengthen the ideals of freedom even within prison walls, that even in exile, friendship becomes an anchor.
Elie managed to survive the Holocaust, one of the greatest crimes in human history, a crime that showed the ultimate depths of human evil and hatred. And yet he took that suffering and he converted it into a lesson for all of humanity. Few individuals have given us that extraordinary gift.
Why write memories? Why share experiences? For the dead, it is too late. We do all that because it is not too late for our children, for all children. It's never too late.